We have now a panel. It's going to be moderated by Erin Gorter. Now, it has been a tumultuous couple of years as we've talked about the sheep trade and the wool industry, particularly in Western Australia. Sheep prices have been high, they've been low. Processors have been booked solid at some stage. Millions of sheep have been trucked east. And of course, the major issue that we've confronted is the Albanese government's decision to legislate the abolition of the sheep trade. So it's interesting, the abolition of a trade by an Act of Parliament is quite rare. The trade gets interrupted from time to time by tariffs, by bans, biosecurity, whole lots of things. But to actually pass an Act of Parliament to abolish a trade, the only other example I could find was the British government Act in 1807 to the Slave Trade Act, where they passed an Act of Parliament, both Houses of Parliament, to ban the slave trade from West Africa. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that one. But it's interesting that there's a certain irony, I think, that the ban of the live sheep trade now, because the sheep travelling to the Middle East do so in immeasurably superior conditions to what the slave trade unfortunately did. So a very unprecedented move, but as speakers have said before, we have to deal with it. And what we want to do today is to say, okay, what's the effect of that trade, that decision? What's the state of the industry here looking like? And to do that, Erin is going to facilitate a panel of Stephen Bolt, Darren Spencer and Jan Cooper. I'll allow Erin to introduce them, but please come forward. Do you have slides?
No, no slides.
Okay.
Just going to sit here.
Yeah, you should have to.
All right, testing. Yes, it's working. Thank you very, very much, Terry. And thank you for having this panel, the organisers having this panel on the program. Great to see lots of faces around here, and to the Ewes and Views session. And I love a good pun, I'm sorry. So I'm starting. We have a great mob here with us today on the panel, and I look forward to fleecing some meaty info out of them for you all. And I promise that will be it. Just a little bit about me. I've noticed some rural industry consultant on the screen. From a LIVEX point of view, I was thinking about in preparation for this, I thought from a contextual point of view, my background, I've been a sheep farmer. I was a farmhand in a live export depot. I've loaded the trucks for the boats, been a rousey in the sheds around WA, an owner-classer, organised tours of the export boats about 15 years ago when they were in the port, visited sheep feedlots and slaughterhouses in the UAE, Qatar and Jordan. So I was really delighted to be able to be asked to chat with this panel today based on my background in LIVEX as well. In more recent years, it's been across the whole of the ag industry, not just LIVEX and the sheep industry, but non-executive director roles, which include a time on the MLA board and various other things, and generally just championing food, fibre and fluid that is grown in Australia for the rest of the world at any opportunity I get. Currently, I'm one of a small group of people that are part of the sheep industry transition advocates strategic group, steering group, so that we're actually helping work alongside developing a roadmap for the West Australian sheep industry moving into the future that aligns strongly with the national Future Flock strategy as well. So that's just a bit of context about why you've got this random person chatting with the people that are actually out there doing it. So, so as Terry said, it's been a tumultuous time for the sheep industry in Western Australia in recent years. I'm keen to have this panel. We know we've got a national audience in front of us, and we wanted to give a bit of a snapshot of the reality of what's happening in WA across the supply chain. So the next 40 minutes or so, we'll hear from these three leaders in our sheep industry, and they'll share insights from their point of view. We will have question time. I want to make sure we've got time for questions from the floor as well. So if you've got any questions, please jot them down so that we can have time at the end for any questions that you want to ask of our team. So today we've got Stephen Bolt down the end, sheep producer and Merino stud breeder. Got Darren Spencer to my left, the president of the WA Shearing Association, and then Jan Cooper in the middle, the executive officer of the Livestock and Rural Transport Association of today, with us today. So we're just initially, let's hear a little bit about from the three of you. If you could tell us a little bit about you and your business and the organisation. So just a quick snapshot of a little bit what's behind the person sitting up here. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Look, myself, I'm born and bred in Corrigin in the wheat belt of WA. Our family mixed farm business is, sheep industry. Our Merino stud is the centrepiece of our mixed farming operation. I've been involved in numerous industry positions over my time. President of the West Australian Stud Merino Breeders Association. I've sat on the Australian Stud Merino Breeders Association. Probably one of my really passionate roles has been with the Livestock Collective since inception, so that's something that I'm really proud of the work that we've been able to do there. But yeah, certainly I've been heavily involved throughout the merino industry within Western Australia.
Fantastic, thanks Stephen. Jan, over to you.
Thanks, Erin. I'm born and bred on a sheep farm, or a mixed farm in Kojonup. As I've spent time working in shearing sheds as a result of that lifestyle. I probably owe my education to Live Export and Ferez Rural in Kojonup in those days. But I'm here today representing the Livestock and Rural Transport Association, whose members include the majority of livestock transporters in Western Australia and a large proportion of transporters that carry other rural commodities, grain, fertiliser, horticultural products, hay, etc. They're all, or the majority of them are small to medium-sized businesses, 1 to 5 trucks and then 5 to 10. They're mostly mum and dad businesses who operate on very small margins of something in the vicinity of 1 to 2%. So that sort of puts some context into what we're discussing today.
Fantastic, thanks very much, Jan. And Darren.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Erin. I grew up on a farm at Lake King and went off from there and started a shearing run in 1991. So a shearing contractor for 30 odd years out of Lake Grace. And I've got a small wool buying business. I recently retired from shearing contracting, but still the current president of the WA Shearing Industry Association, which I've been for about 14 years, and really strong advocate for our members in our shearing industry to keep it going.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Darren. When I was thinking of preparing for this panel, I also wanted to take the opportunity to just make mention of the amount of volunteer hours that go on behind the scenes by so many people, not just sometimes they're in paid positions, but they do above and beyond what is asked for them as part of their roles. So in front of you, you've got an example of 3 of those people in this state that put so much time and effort out of their own businesses, away from families, on the road, the whole works, in order to do things for our sheep industry. And there's a lot of people, when I look around this room, that equally dedicate so much time above and beyond as well for the sheep industry and the live cattle industry as well. So I'd just like you to all put your hands together to thank the volunteer time. Okay, so it's exciting to have the LIVEX conference here in WA. So let's hear a bit more about the West Australian sheep industry. So just wondering if the panel members can give us a quick snapshot of your part of the sheep industry supply chain. And then to dig a little bit deeper, I'll ask you to share some numbers of where things were at 5 years ago, where they are now, so we can get a bit of an idea of how things have moved. We haven't gone with slides because we'll just all have a chat and a conversation up here about what it looked like a while back and what it's looking like now. So Stephen, let's start with you from the producer side of things. Where were we at around about 2020, and where are we at now? Flock numbers, ram sales, over to you.
Yeah, look, certainly there's been a big shift in industry numbers, and particularly since that 2019 onwards. Just for context, if you go back to the peak of around 35 million sheep within Western Australia back in around 1990, once we got through to around that 2020 stage, we've been sitting somewhere between that 12.5 up to 14 million sheep, but fluctuating up and down through there. But in that 2019-20 period, around 12.34 million sheep, which predominantly are Merino. So WA, compared to the other states, has that really strong Merino component, where we're about 85% of the sheep in the state were Merino. So hence our development of our mixed farming system and our sheep industry was based around the importance of that live export trade that was available to us. So the Merino sheep fitted that trade really well, and therefore we had a really strong numbers in WA of Merinos. We've now fallen, the forecasting committee are just about to meet again, but we're, right at probably around 8 million sheep within the state at the moment. So over the last 2-3 year period, we've seen a dramatic drop in sheep numbers in WA, and there's been a change to the composition where Merinos were the predominant breed. We're probably now looking at getting back to, it might be somewhere, it's hard to gauge, but around a 60-40 split of 60% Merinos and 40 either going to terminals or other breeds like shedding breeds. So there has been that change of flock composition within WA.
Fantastic, thanks for that, Stephen. And Jan, how about the transport industry 5 years ago and where we're at now?
Well, 5 years ago, there definitely was much more activity in the livestock transport sector. We had more members who were exclusively livestock transporters. That's now become less and less as transporters have, as the flock decreased, transporters had to diversify and look for other work to fill the gap. So there has been an evolution in that 5 years. And that, I guess, has resulted in more competition between transporters as well. And in that 5 year period, the regulatory burden has increased on transporters, which is making it much more difficult to get professional drivers. There are easier jobs to do than transporting livestock. And to put some of the activity into perspective, when the decision was announced in relation to live sheep export, for some of our members, that resulted in would result in a loss of between 30 and 40% of their turnover. So they had to make some very quick decisions as a result of that.
All right, thanks very much, Jan. And the shearing industry from you, Darren.
The last 5 years have seen a lot of turmoil in the shearing industry. Where 2019 we were sailing along pretty well. You would struggle to find staff in the real busy periods, but we all got through and we got the sheep shorn. There was a lot of sheep to be shorn. 2020 we've seen COVID come along, and COVID destroyed our industry, where a lot of New Zealanders and shearers and staff from other countries that were coming into Australia couldn't come here. So we went through a period from sort of late 2020 through to 2024, where we trained a lot of people through AWI funding and other various funding schemes. We trained a hell of a lot of people for our industry. But now we see where we have dropped from 12 million not very long ago down to 8 million sheep, and we've got a lot of extra staff around. The problem there is that all these people we trained are struggling to get a job in the industry. So you'll see those people that we put a lot of money into to get trained will fall by the wayside. So as an industry, we're working with that and trying to make things better to keep those young people in our industry.
Thanks, Darren. No, it's a very, very real problem across all these parts of the supply chain. We'll touch on where to from here in a moment, but I also just wanted to get a response from the three of you each as what impact has that had on our regional communities at the same time? It was touched on this morning in one of the presentations about the impact that it's having around regional Western Australia as well. So Darren, seeing as you've got the microphone, do you want to give us a little bit of a snapshot of how it's impacting our communities and the people in them?
Yeah, so with the shearing industry, we bring a lot of people in. We probably bring people in from New Zealand and stuff, and they come in for the period. But while those people are in your communities, they spend a lot of their money in your communities. But then a lot of them enjoy your work there, and they stay and they buy houses and they become a part of your community. They have families that are in your schools and contribute to your emergency services and your general well-being in your town. But once those people go with the loss of sheep, you start to lose those people, and we notice it really strongly when we sort of have a break in June and the manager at the Roadhouse starts asking me, when are we going to start shearing again? And the local IGA guy starts sort of asking us, when you blokes going to crank up again, because you provide so much income to them. Because a lot of shearers are hand to mouth, and their money comes into their hand and then it goes into your community. So that's really affected the community.
Thanks, Darren. I was just, as you were saying that, and I thought the shearing sheds and Ferez Rural got me through uni. So it's also the farm kids that are coming home at uni to work in the sheds or load trucks and bits and pieces. Sounds like Jan and I have a common background there. So it's the people coming back to the communities working on the farms rather than staying up in Perth and making coffees and things too.
Yeah, and a lot of our, a lot of the shearing contracts around, their children were put through uni by coming home and working in the shearing sheds, and you see a lot of that changing now. Yeah,
that's great. Thanks. Jan, what are you seeing?
Well, very similar to Darren, Erin. I guess as transporters have downsized, that means one less or maybe two less drivers in the local community who are obviously attending the school. They're using the shops. There's less activity for the tyre fitter, for the mechanic. It's exactly the same really as Darren's explained.
Great. And Stephen, anything to add there that you're seeing in your local community or further afield?
Yeah, look, I suppose I think we're still not at the bottom of decline in sheep numbers, and I think we're still 12 months away from knowing where the bottom is. But the confidence has been shot, taken out of the whole industry and in every sector. And until we start, seeing that confidence regained, I think there's a bit of time to, it'll take a couple of seasons before some confidence is renewed, and then hopefully we'll start to see a build. But certainly in from a producer point of view, that lack of confidence in the industries, people are taking other options, and cropping has certainly been where that real shift has gone, because growers want security around, their financial investment on farm. So that sort of impacts, like Darren and Jan are speaking about, there's less shearers, within our community now. So a lot of times we've got to wait longer to get sheep shorn. Certainly for me with transporters, my carrier is coming and picking up, 7 and 8 pickups of sheep for one load, whereas, historically it'd be 1 or 2 lines of sheep, and you've got that load to go, whether it's going to the export yards or going to domestic processing. So the implications all the way along, whether it's the local stock agent, he's got to do so many more miles to gather up a load of sheep. It just flows on through so many different areas throughout the communities.
Yep. Thanks, Stephen. It's certainly very real that you're all living and breathing, and many people in the room as well. So let's change gears a little bit and looking forward. So 2025 from here, onwards. So, Darren, if we could get the microphone down your end, how is the shearing industry looking at moving forward from here? What's happened. What's next do you see?
Well, we fought pretty hard in trying to overturn the ban, but in the meantime, we could see that if the ban came in, there was nothing for our industry. A lot of our people would be put out of work. So we attended a lot of the co-design workshops, and we had members attend them to try and work out whether there was anything for us. And it just happened, I happened to be talking to a few of our contractors and said to them, what'll you do? You know, you blokes have been working 12 months of the year, and now you're going to be looking at 8 months. And so we just got talking. A lot of us had came off farms originally. And so we talked about how we used to go back and work on farms and just general jobs in the community. So at one of the co-design workshops, I was with our executive officer, Valerie Pretzel, and she started sort of plying it all out of me to see where we could go from there. And we put all this stuff together up on the wall, and the DAF guys that were there got quite excited by it, and they rang us up and they tried to find more out from us. So we had a Zoom meeting with them, and they said they could provide us with some seed funding to try and develop the program. And we actually signed it the day before the election was called, and we got stuck into it to do what we could. And so we developed a program, and we're now calling it Beyond the Shed, which is new skills and stronger communities. And what it's about is about training for our contractors to operate, to keep their staff and to keep their businesses to run alongside their shearing businesses. And so we've worked with it, and it's all about fee-free training for our staff to get skills that they don't already have and get a certificate for their skills, and fee-free business training through Rural West. So we got our grant. We had to apply for a grant, and we've got our grant now. So we're developing the program, and we have 13 contractors that have onboarded to start in the first phase of the program, and we will start with them early December to get them up to skill with their business stuff and all that. And so we got the Livestock Collective that come to work with us as part of the training, coordinating, and the program development. Since I've finished contracting, I don't have any problems with that. That I now work with as a contractor mentor to go around and help contractors with what they're doing and help them sort of develop them into the program. And so we're looking forward to running that. We've got a minimum of 2 years, and hopefully we can be frugal with the money, and we might be able to run it for 3 years or more. But it may be just an interim thing till we get to a stage where, you know, our sheep numbers settle and contractors can settle. But the idea of it was to give these guys skills and to remain in our communities and help our contractors keep their people in their communities. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for sharing that, Darren. So how's that retirement thing going? Rewired.
Yeah, so rewire it for a couple of years. And look, my passion is in the industry, and I just like to see the opportunity for many people to stay in their communities. They bought houses there, and their kids have grown up there. So I think it's a good thing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Darren. So so that's from the shearing industry. So Jan, for the transporters, how do you see the WA transporters moving ahead to keep their businesses viable and keep trucks on the road and people in jobs? What's your view?
Well, I guess it's safe to say that there is a huge amount of uncertainty in the transport section at the transport world at the moment, but transporters are resourceful people, and they pivot fairly quickly to new opportunities. So, I think they're moving and have moved because they had to move quite fast. They've moved into other areas of transport. They've picked up general freight. They're, doing more grain transport. I guess the harvest this year is a blessing for them. But I think going forward, the dynamics are likely to change a little bit in transport, and they will pick up more work in the livestock sector as the sheep flock increases when that actually happens. But I think the dynamics will change in that they will continue to opt for regular and reliable work. So they won't always be available at a moment's notice to pick up a load of livestock. So I think it will be very important going forward for growers and agents and exporters to actually engage and communicate with their local carriers to discuss with them, what the future holds, so that they can be prepared to do the work, because the ad hoc nature of livestock transport is, quite an issue for transporters going forward.
Great. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jan. So, Stephen, we haven't got any major concerns regarding demand for the best wool and best sheep meat grown in the world. And listening to Andrew Cox's summary from MLA, certainly the demand is right out there. So, so what sort of future do you see? How are we going to continue to fill this demand that's around and keep people on the land and keep people in our communities and rebuild these sheep numbers? As you say, you're feeling we haven't hit rock bottom at this stage. Building up from there. What's your view? How are you?
Yeah, look, there's definitely going to be huge opportunities. We know the protein demand is continuing to grow, increase. So there's real opportunity there. I think, when the confidence, and that'll come with, some sustained good, strong prices, which I think we'll see going forward over the next period. We do need to see some increase in the wool price. That's probably one factor that would help, continue to grow that confidence back in the industry. But, I think there's certainly going to be that specialised, breeders within the industry, and then there'll be people that will feed. So there'll be a change of the way the industry is structured. Real opportunity for those people to enjoy their livestock, and, there's a lot of, non-arable or lower producing country that is really suited to sheep production. And so we'll see that specialised, areas continue to run sheep. And I think it's just finding that balance and risk management within the farming system. People will find that balance and then look to, build on it from there. But, for me, what I see really passionate about, the young people that we see when we travel around are really, they're keen, enthusiastic, passionate about the sheep industry. And I think as an industry, we need to gather up all of those young people and show them a pathway and give them some, some confidence that jobs going forward and an industry going forward is going to be really sustainable, strong, that they can be a part of. So I think that's, for me, and part of the work we do with Livestock Collective is embracing those young people, that we see throughout the school system or the uni system, and getting them on board, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities to help manage livestock and sheep within these cropping systems.
There certainly is. There's lots of opportunities, and it's obviously in this state we're a big mixed farming area. It's not a matter of the cropping hectares taking away from the sheep. It's growing more kilos of meat or wool per hectare alongside cropping as well. So it doesn't need to be an us and them. We build on from there. And you're certainly right as far as the next generation of people coming through. There is so many people out there very excited about working in our sheep industry as well. I do a little bit of work with Murdoch University. We developed up a job readiness unit for working in the livestock sector a couple of years ago, and 80% of the people applying to do animal science back then, 80% of them came from a non-agricultural background, and they want to work in animal science. Getting into vet is an initial driver. It's amazing how many of them start going through and go, oh, sounds like there's other jobs where I can work with animals other than being a vet. But if 80% of them have no knowledge, or in some cases haven't touched a sheep, then how on earth would we expect that they might want to come into our industry if we don't create those opportunities for them? The unis are doing as much as they possibly can in the time that they have them, but it's also industry leaning in and say, come down doing some work experience with me, or give them those opportunities there. So there's plenty of people very, very eager to come and be part of our industry. So it's creating that very positive, exciting future that that can be there for them. So I'm keen to get an opportunity to hear from the floor. I'll wind up in a moment, and say thank you to you all. But do we have some? I've got 7 minutes and 6 seconds, Terry. That's right. Have we got some? Have we got some questions? No, I haven't finished yet. But just keen to get a bit of interaction from the floor to see who has the first question. Karen, we've got a question from. And if you could just state your name and who you are and who you'd like to ask the question of, just to make it easier for them.
Thanks, Erin. I'm going to direct my question to both Darren and Jan. So I'm Karen Mickle. I work with Rural West doing financial counselling with farmers and regional small businesses. We'll be working in conjunction with Darren's team with their program going forward. But what I'd like to see, and what I'm seeing with the people that I currently deal with, is there's a little bit of this transition sort of has happened a little bit too late for quite a few. I deal with a lot of people in financial distress. What I'd really like to know is what Darren and Jan have seen, what percentage of people have actually already exited the industry because we've failed to actually get anything to them earlier than now.
As far as the shearing industry goes, the guys that were the larger contractors that had multiple teams, they've sort of managed to keep their runs going pretty well because they could drop back a bit and things like that. But the single team operators are really struggling because they've got no way to fill their gaps. The other one that's happening is the guys that are getting put off because there's so few sheep, some guys that contractors don't want, they're getting put off. They're sort of now running around to try and undercut the contractors, which is not good. There's a problem happening with the industry that those guys are running around with ABNs, but there's no definition of who's covering the workers' comp, who's covering super or anything like that. And there's going to be some grief with some people in the industry through that. So, yeah, we've got to try and do some things to cover that. So, but yeah, there's help there for those contractors. We're working with a lot of our members to try and help them get through this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Jan, do you have anything to add, Jan?
Oh, only that we haven't noticed that there have been too many that have completely exited the industry. There have been some that have sold all their sheep crates and have moved on to other types of transport.
Right. Questions? One down.
Trevor Whittington, WA Farmers. Ken, I'll just put it to the panel, decide who answers this one. What is the sheep price, lamb price, and wool price that we probably need to get us back up to 10 million sheep, just to get that confidence? Is it, I know, $7, $8, $9, $10 for lamb as we're currently seeing, or is it $15, $16, $17 for 19 micron wool?
Yeah, look, thanks, Trevor. I think what more than anything is we need some stability where we've seen these huge fluctuations in price over recent years, and I think once we, start seeing some stability, but it does come back to competitive land use, and so, we need, both that package of sheep meat and wool. Not necessarily to be making as much per hectare as cropping, because it's about the synergies of the two enterprises together, how we work them both together. But we certainly need to see, I think between $3 and $5 a kilo on wool is definitely needed, because we've seen the price, whether it's the cost of shearing or animal health products, our staff, labour on farm, all of those costs have continued to increase, but we've seen the wool price remain really stagnant. The sheep price has certainly increased, and where we get to that, you know, $150 to $250 range, look, growers can see some really good profits to be made in that sort of range. But you know, we want to see some stability return. I suppose the other key part for me is making sure that the WA local processing sector, you know, has enough sheep in the system for all of those processes to remain viable, because I think that's going to be one of the, you know, the really big key things going forward, is making sure we've got enough sheep so that all of those businesses remain profitable, because if they don't, and we lose a processor out of the state, again, it puts more pressure, reducing competition into the WA sheep industry.
Over that, Trevor? Thank you. Further question? Sure. Yeah, one right here in the front here, please.
Flows on from Trevor a bit, Indy Murray. And Erin, you touched on the human impact of the journey so far. Firstly, I just want to echo thank you to all of you up there. I know a small portion of what you do for the industry, and it's huge, so thank you very much. And we've talked about the money side of it, but a lot of the decision making in the industry has been under really difficult circumstances. For each of you, what is something outside of price that you think could make a really big difference in trying to support the industry and get us through to the future?
Okay, let's start with Darren.
More, you say outside of price, but I was going to say more consistency in the price in the wool market would help us, which is consistent. And I think a lot of it, when we got to a stage where we were shearing for 12 months of the year, things were okay. But when we go in really strong seasons where we shear from January to March and then August through to November, December, and everybody wants their sheep shorn at the same time, that's what destroys our industry as well, because we've got to bring in so many people to get the sheep shorn at that time, and then what do we do with them afterwards? You can't put them in the freezer and thaw them out when you need them. So that's really part of what we're doing with the program, that we're beyond the shed, is that we don't have to put them in the freezer. We can park them out to a farmer to go out and help him with his mulesing or help him on his farm during seeding and harvest time. And incidentally, I see Steve Maguire sitting there, and Steve said to me when we were discussing this with all the farm lobby groups and stuff, Steve said to me that if they could find a truck driver in harvest season, it'd be worth squeams to them. Well, we found out that TAFE will actually do a fee training for a truck driver for 3 weeks with no cost. So that's part of what our program is about, to try and help along with those lines. So yeah, to even stuff out, that we don't have our highs and lows through the system.
Okay, Mindy? Right. Well, I think we'll have to wind it up there, Erin. So
All right. Okay, well, thank you very, very much to Stephen, Jan and Darren for sharing, preparing and sharing your journey. I'd like you to all put your hands together to thank our 3 panellists. Thank you.